Hey guys, what is up? AwesomeTheSauce here, and today we're gonna have a very special video because it's about a very new addition to the game. They're called legendary weapons, and basically you have to be a top level crafter. You do a small little crafting quest, very easy to do, and you're officially a crafter that is capable of doing things for basically in terms of crafting the weapons. Now, I think you only need to be a legendary artisan, so basically the quest, you get it from Librarian Fitzhugh, and you go to this guy, and he gives you access to a lot of weapons, and we're going to talk about in this video whether those weapons are good for PvP or if they're worth it in general. So let's look at the weapons first, guys. So basically, here's a common gist of the weapons. They all require this new reagent called an antiquity. They all seem to have stardust, vines, astral shards, golden pearls, and ore involved. It's just they seem to differ in the TC that you need and the gemstone that you need to craft them. Other than that, they're pretty much all the same. I mean, some of them, they differ in number. For example, for some reason, Jackie's legendary bow is a lot easier to craft because there's only 2 golden pearls, 1 stardust involved. I don't know why they do that, but, you know, that's just something they've done. So, basically, the gist of these weapons is that they give a ton of damage compared to what we're used to. They give pierce, which a lot of, you know, it's a good amount of offense for a lot of schools. They don't give power pip chance, which is one little bit of a trade-off. No block at all, so that's one really big thing. Very little crit, and then a lot of pip conversion. So we're going to talk about this. Now, I literally just got enough reagents. I just got enough antiquities to finally do it. Now, let's talk about, is it worth it in terms of how hard is it to craft? Because that's something you really do have to keep in mind, you know? It's not easy to craft this wand at all. It's actually took me pretty much just questing through the entire world to finally get enough. So that's something to keep in mind, you know? It's definitely not the easiest thing to craft by any measure at all. So, you know, you should keep that in mind when you are considering whether it's actually worth crafting or not. Yes, I think it definitely adds a new mechanic that you should look into. You know, that's important. But is it 100% worth it in terms of crafting? If you're going to be okay to quest through the entire world, make sure that you keep your eye out for these if you want to craft these. That being said, you know, you crafted on this. Let's just craft it, guys. What? No room in backpack. Wow, dude. I'm like so rich right now. Hold on. I don't need this. Yeah, let me just, okay, that literally doesn't sell for anything. That's great. I love Mirage so much. All right, let's see, guys. So let's create it and let's compare it, you know? So let's just finish off that little discussion on crafting. It's not that bad. If you're going to quest through the world, keep your eye out for antiquities. Now, what they look like, they're just little sparkles on the ground. I'll try to see if I can find one for this video specifically, but they're all over. And it also, with something really nice thing, you know, it does come with the square socket. That's, you know, it's already open for you, and it looks really cool. That's another, you know, it's a little bit of a perk if you're into that kind of stuff. Let's see what we can put on it. I don't really have a lot of stuff to put on it at the moment. So, I guess we'll just affix this. I don't know. I'm probably going to actually affix something a lot better to it. But let's say we have this, right? These are basically the stats I would have in PvP in terms of my other gear. So let's look at exactly what changes, right? So when we're comparing this wand to this wand, obviously you get 12 more damage. That's a lot of damage, you know? It's just, there's no comparison when you're talking about how much damage you get. But let's look at pip conversion. Yeah, that's clearly the biggest difference. Let's look at what pip conversion does. Now, this is something that you really do need to keep in mind. You shouldn't have pip conversion in mind when you're dealing with any of this. Now, a lot of people asked me, in the last video I made a video about pip conversion. A lot of people asked me, what in the world is pip conversion? Basically, let's say you have 3 power pips, right? So you have 6 pips in total, then you cast a 5 pip spell. Technically, normally, like what happens, you use all those 6 pips. But technically, you're only using 5 of those 6 pips, if that makes sense. So, pip conversion is a stat, basically, when you have full power pips, and use, or, you know, all the power pips, the only pips you have are power pips. If you use an odd pip spell, there's a chance that you'll regain a pip as a result. Now, what does this mean for PvP? Well, at the moment, it doesn't mean a lot, because right now, it's only 1%. Let's say I had 6 pips in terms of 3 power pips, and I used an FFA. yes, it could give me another pip. I could stun into another FFA. Yes, that's definitely something that could happen, and that would be really, really overpowered. Instead of waiting, instead of waiting 3 rounds to get enough pips for an FFA, like a 5-pip shadow hit, which is currently still the most popular shadow hit for most schools. Instead of waiting for that long, you only have to wait 2 rounds. So I see where the RNG might happen, but right now, you need a lot of it. You need a lot. 125 is only 1%, meaning if you were to multiply this by 100, which is about 12,500, you could get closer to 1% using that logic. Now, I have my own theory on how pip conversion works. I think it works more like critical, you know? If you guys notice, let's see, if you guys notice with this critical, this is 58%, which, this is 58 critical rating, meaning it's 1%, which means, realistically speaking, if you multiply that by 100, you need 5,800 for 100%. But clearly that's not the case, because after a certain threshold, you get some crit. So I think that's how it's going to work. I think for very low amounts, it's going to be a very low percent. But if you get higher amounts, it's exponential growth, kind of, you know. So you'll get a lot more pip conversion, like percent-wise, when you get a lot more rating. You know, you can't multiply this by 100 and say to have 100% pip conversion, you need 12,500 pip conversion stat. I just don't think that's realistic. So, you know, that is one mechanic that you do have access to, although you shouldn't rely on it. So let's look at the other stats. Damage, it's a huge, huge plus, you know. There's always room for damage. I mean, as far as I can tell, doesn't make that big of a difference for my wizard. It's, you know, it's standard, you know, 123 damage, it's not uncommon. However, I also get pierce with it, and that's something that you guys need to keep in mind, you know. There are a lot of wands in this game that give various benefits, you know, based on what you do. Now, it's basically, this wand is based off of this wand, which I've actually used in PvP. It's very, very nice. Except, when you have pierce and damage paired together, it makes a very, very deadly combo. That being said, you do relinquish crit. So what kind of strategies would work for fire, let's say, right? Well, for fire, this whole power link spamming strategy that I've been doing for a while, it got me to Warlord. You know, I'm still Warlord on this wizard because of it. But I can't use this as much because I'm not going to be critting my heals on this, and that's really important. That's the reason this is so easy to use. If you have a decent amount of heal boost, it's a satyr and damage at the same time. You know, that's really what people like about power link. So that being said, let's say I were to just use these stats, I don't see myself critting that much. It's only 27%. Now, maybe I could put up a bubble, but, you know, that you get the idea. But I do see myself doing a ton of damage. You know, that's important. I could still use a power link and do a ton of damage. One really nice benefit of this is that, you know, you get pretty high pip chance, you get perfect accuracy with the way I'm doing it. So you do get benefits, like, you know, your stats are pretty well rounded. You get a really, really nice damage to pierce ratio. And that's something to keep in mind. So yes, is it hard to craft? Definitely. But you get some benefits. You know, you get a square socket that you would have never had before. And you also get pip conversion, which, I mean, it could come in clutch a few matches at most. I don't know. But you get a really nice pierce to damage ratio. And that's something that's really important. If you have a lot of damage, it only matters if you also have a lot of pierce. Now, having 40 pierce, it kind of diminishes the real need to have that much extra pierce in general. I don't have to use infels. I seriously don't think I'm going to pack more than 2 shrikes. I mean, this is 3 at the moment. Probably going to put that down to 2 now. Yes, I will remove some power links, but, you know, I'll also put some just straight up damage hits, you know? Like, I'll probably use Fire Elf a lot more. I'll probably save up a lot to do, you know, just small hits that do a lot of damage. You know, that's probably the way it's going to go. I think Fire Elf is going to replace Power Link for people who use this kind of strategy. Not to mention, the 4-pip Shadow spells are also going to have a really, really big impact on this, because now you're dealing with a lot of damage. Do I think they break the game? Definitely not. You know, that's the important thing. You do have to keep that in mind. I don't think they break the game at all. You know, you have to sacrifice a lot of stats to have this kind of damage. And frankly, I'm still going to get crit on in PvP pretty often because it's only 40%. I'm not going to crit that much either. So, you know, maybe I could just go for all-out damage. You know, that's definitely something to keep in mind. Like, if I were to switch up my stats at all, you know, I could go for just all-out damage instead. But, you know, that's something to consider at a later time. You know, I don't think having this much damage, but having a mediocre amount of crit is really the way to go. So what I think is that people are going to balance out their stats a lot more. I'm definitely not done balancing out the stats, but my verdict is that it's definitely worth it. I would have it, especially for schools where the recipe is actually really good, you know? So, like, some schools benefit a lot more than others. That's the last thing I want to talk about before we close off this video. Fire is the first one I crafted it on because it gives 20 damage. 20 damage on a wand is absolutely insane, if you just think about it for a second. Now, I'm not sure why fire just gets so much more than every other school. Like, maybe it's because it's a fire school kind of thing. But if you look at it, even storm doesn't get as much. Yeah, they get more pierce, which honestly I prefer. But it's a little weird, you know? Why does storm kind of get shortchanged a little? They should have more pierce and more damage, flat out, you know? I mean, they also have more crit, so, you know, I can see why storms would do this. But you need a very specific kind of strat, you know? You need to go really in. You need to be very offensive. It'll force you to be much more offensive, which is a fun thing to do, you know? The schools I don't recommend this for are life, ice, death, and balance. It's just myth, fire, and storm. Those are very worth it, I think. Maybe balance, I don't know. If you're super offensive, totally up to you. But yeah, guys, maybe it was a struggle to craft it, but I think I can see myself using it. When I'm finally level 120, we're getting really, really close to that, you know? We're level 117 and a half right now, so 2.5 levels to go. The last dungeon should level me up very, very quickly, so it's really not even that far away. You know, we're getting close. So when I do PvP, I'm gonna try using this wand first and see how it goes. So tell me what you guys think of the legendary weapons. Are they worth it? Are they hard? Are they too hard to craft? That's one thing. And do you think the mechanics are like I'm saying they're gonna be, which means, you know, nice damage and pierce, so you'll do a lot of damage? Or do you think people are gonna just abandon crit and abandon block and just go for some crazy strategies just without them? You know, that's a possibility too. Tell me in the comments below, guys. Start a discussion down there. And if someone hasn't told you you're awesome today, they're doing something wrong. So stay awesome, bruh. Yeah.